Wow. So good to be back in London. I've flown all the way over here, though, to register my complaint, not just with London, but with all of you from Europe. I'm sorry, but I don't know what you've done to our children in America. My nephew, he's just 9 years old, and every day he goes to school wearing his either his Real Madrid jersey or his Paris Saint-Germain jersey, and his full outfit. He tries to go to school in his cleats, if he could, every day. And I brought the family to London earlier this year, and all he wanted to do, of course, was get a Messi soccer ball and go see Manchester United or Arsenal. We would like our children back, is what I'm saying to you. And by the way, if next year I manage to make it here and I'm not in a wheelchair, it will be a miracle. Every day I've got to go out and play football, Uncle Mike, play football. And you don't need to translate that. It's European football. So anyway, I'm going to talk to you today about what no one wants to talk about, the recession, and what it means for you, our clients, our partners. And then I'm going to talk about how it affects Appian, the state of the union for Appian. And then I will talk about our latest product release, because I am the Chief Technology Officer, and I'll talk a lot about that product and our new feature, our data fabric, that we're showcasing here at the show. And then I'll talk a little bit about the industry we focus on, how we segment the market. But that R word, the recession, is important to talk about because it's real, it's here, you can't avoid it, it's on everyone's minds. How do you cut budgets? How do you prepare for next year? How do you prepare for lean times? And specifically for banks and financial services firms and insurance companies and the government agencies that regulate them, there are specific things that you need to consider. The reality is everyone knows during a recession, fraud goes up. And attempted fraud goes up. False claims go up. And the regulators are already getting busy. And they're already formulating new rules. $6.3 billion in fines were levied by the American Securities and Exchange Commission on banks in the last year alone, up 40%. That will only go up. The European financial regulator made headlines last week putting Deutsche Bank on notice that if they didn't get their anti-money laundering compliance in check, that they would be facing issues. Every financial services firm is going to face greater scrutiny, and it's not to pick on any one bank. The entire industry is under the microscope, and that is always what happens in a recession. We've been around long enough, we know. And that reality of that higher risk and higher risk from fraud and higher risk of compliance errors is only magnified in these bad times. And the banks and insurance companies aren't just under more scrutiny from regulators and the auditors who are under pressure themselves to not only sign off on the books as being reasonable, but find fraud, which is a pretty new concept for auditors. That's not what they were traditionally there to do. And now they are expected to meet that very high bar. But also customers. Customers in this new world are demanding new digital experiences. They're demanding that their accounts be updated instantaneously, that they be able to do new things with their financial services firms, that claims be able to be filed from their phone, that all of their cases be resolved instantaneously. And if you don't provide them with that new measure of real-time digital experience, they're all the more willing to go to some startup fintech or insurtech. And that pressure is coming right at the worst time when the regulators are demanding instantaneous compliance, continuous compliance, visibility into suspicious behavior. And that's a really tough spot to be in. And to take another example of how this is playing out, your customers are demanding that the financial system reflect their priorities and that they have a way to invest in ESG businesses and ESG projects, and that their environmental sustainability and governance goals are reflected in their investment strategies. And so the financial services industry has responded with a whole set of products, which themselves are even more difficult than ever to verify what's inside the wrapper, what's in that packaging, and continuously, is it still meeting those new high bars of being zero carbon, of being a diverse workforce for that project that's being worked on by that bond. I mean, walk around London and you can see many projects advertising themselves as being zero carbon, net zero, meeting diversity goals. You know those projects are funded with ESG bonds, and the government is starting to look at, all the regulators are starting to look at these things because this is a huge market, hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, and the compliance there is very, very challenging. And so how do you meet that challenge? Well, traditionally, you either build a solution custom in Java, or you buy a new core banking system, new core insurance system, and both of those choices are really not great choices in this climate. They're too expensive and they take too long. And so, of course, you're all here, hopefully, because you recognize that a low-code approach for process automation is the right way to respond. So let's turn our attention to how Appian is doing in this climate. And I'm choosing to highlight one journalist who covers Appian for a long time, Adrian Bridgewater. He's not even here, but hopefully you're watching this on live stream, Adrian. And he didn't know I was going to do this. But I loved this quote because I thought it really captured Appian's brand voice perfectly, in that we put out a new release like we did on Friday with Appian version 22.4. And he was commenting on an earlier release this year. We just tend to say, like, yes, this is it. Appian, every quarter, we're giving you what you asked for. Process automation, low code, very easy, very fast, and every quarter it's going to get faster and better. And we approach the market with that, frankly, that realization that you're going to do the research, you're going to find out whether or not it's as good as we say it is. So we let the product, as much as possible, speak for itself. But at the risk of incurring some of Adrian's wrath, I do want to brag a little bit. So there won't be any pyrotechnics on stage, but that fog machine was kind of cool. The reality is we're seeing dramatic uptick in usage of Appian Cloud. That's 7 billion customer processes. That's obviously up several billion from last year. And so the growth is just accelerating. The fact is you are automating more than ever with Appian. And this is just Appian Cloud, which is about 80% of our business. Clearly the biggest part, but it's not all of it. So we're understating the impact that we have. And if you break it down, an average Appian process has about 9.7 human activities that it automates. That's logging into a couple systems to get some data or update them. It's sending out an email asking for someone to update the data. And so that translates pretty easily into a massive economic savings of over $100 billion. Now, the other thing I want to make sure I do now is thank you all. Not just for coming here, but also for renewing. And in this climate, that wasn't a given for a lot of things. I mean, I'm personally negotiating with many of my vendors, so I know how much scrutiny you're putting Appian under, and to see this renewal rate persist, it means a lot to us. We appreciate that you appreciate the value you're getting from Appian, as well that you continue to write nice things about us to Gartner when they do this Peer Insights Magic Quadrant, and we keep getting put in the upper right there. Now, the most common question I get from all of you in the last few years when we get together in person was, how do I find Appian skilled people? How do I find more Appian skilled people to scale my usage of Appian? And we listened, and we have spent millions of dollars building out Appian Community, driven by Appian Community Edition, that free version of our software that people can get started with, developers, independent consultants, and learners. We have invested in building these individual learning paths, so you don't need to come and take our instructor-led training, although it's still terrific and I highly recommend it. And the end result is an amazing result. Since June of 2021, when we launched Appian Community Edition, we're up 400%. And we're closing in on 200,000 people in the community. So that's step one. Step two, make no mistake, we know, is engaging this community and getting them through the full certification process so that you have a whole new class of lead engineers out there and experienced architects. And we are well on our way. Now I want to turn my attention to the product and Appian's view of the low-code market and the low-code automation market. In our estimation, automation is without a doubt the biggest trend in software. We've seen explosive growth in usage in automation. But to us, it's all about what is the biggest trend in automation? Where is this automation market going and where can we take it? And so we're focused on the convergence of automation with low code, the convergence of automation, low code, and process mining, and the convergence of all of those things on this new capability, this new hot technology trend called data fabrics. And in our minds, these are not separate products. These are separate capabilities of one platform and one development environment, so that instead of needing a separate team for everything you want to do and then having to have another team that coordinates all of those teams, you should be able to have one Appian developer, one tester, one lead, and be able to do great things with all of this power. Low-code design, process automation with RPA and API integrations, and intelligent document processing, and process mining to give you the data and facts to know that it all works right together. So that's what, there they are. All of Appian's critical capabilities, unified into one platform. The best low-code that we launched 5 years ago, we were the first company to go public as a low-code platform, and that full-stack low-code continues to evolve rapidly and lead the market in terms of simplicity, speed, elegance, and that ability to declaratively define your applications so that the platform is always upgradable, and more than that, that combination of low-code with process automation. You're building applications for a reason. You're building them because you have a business process to automate. You have a problem to solve. And with Appian, there is no difference. It's low-code process automation. It's all the same platform. And for us, process automation is, BPM, RPA, AI, and all integrated together. Total experience. When you build something in Appian, you don't have to choose, am I building a mobile app or am I building a web app? Appian platform takes care of that for you. And then you get to deliver this incredibly tailored mobile experience on iOS, on Android, that works great, dynamically offline even. We're working with the Food and Drug Administration in the United States, and they are overhauling the way they do inspections of all of the pharmaceutical manufacturers. And it's a perfect example of where they need to have those inspections happen offline. And with Appian, that's a natural motion to be able to have that application work and be able to have business rules validating the logic on the forms, even though there's no internet connection. And that's the kind of value you get when you combine the convergence of these capabilities. And earlier this year, we launched our process mining, and I'll talk about what's new there, that ability to have this data-driven perspective on what to prioritize. And then, of course, what's new as of Friday, our data fabric. So process mining. In 22.4, we move beyond the fundamentals of process mining. This straightforward ability to take a look at your logs, to look at what data your systems are generating already about who's doing what work and when, and sequence it with machine learning, and therefore diagnose and discover in an objective way, where are the bottlenecks? Where is the rework? You can see it in red. Where is the rework happening? Where is there an opportunity for efficiency to be added, for productivity to be improved? This is typically something that is bought by a data science team. But with Appian now in 22.4, in beta, we have this built in, so you can mine directly Appian records in the data fabric. And therefore, it becomes that much simpler to get direct insights into your processes and your sub-processes. Many of you who've been working with Appian for a long time have hundreds and even thousands of processes. And mining gives you a quick way to consolidate them into a clear view, and you can do away with subject matter experts taking the time to give you their opinions on where there are problems. The data can tell you. And we have new saving scorecards that can automatically populate from this information and show you whether or not you're on target to meet your efficiency goals. Now, none of this matters, especially for banks and insurance companies and government agencies and healthcare firms, our target audience, our core customers, if it isn't built on a trusted and secure foundation. And Appian's commitment to security goes back over 20 years, and our security is much deeper than the accreditations. It is our 24/7 Security Operations Center. It is beginning with secure coding principles. It is a secure supply chain and a clear software bill of materials that you can request that will show you the libraries we use that I personally vet before they get into Appian So the reality is sometimes our developers come to us with really cool technology and we say, no, we can't use it in Appian because of its source. And I'll let you guess what sources we don't trust. But that's pretty obvious, and yet it's a distinction and difference between us and, say, some other fintech. Now I want to talk about what's really new in 22.4, and that's the data fabric. And data fabric is a trendy new term, and Appian is not known for being terribly trendy. So I want to try level setting here, and we'll take Gartner's definition of data fabric, just as a baseline. And so what does Gartner say data fabric is? They say it's an easy way for you to access information that's distributed data, distributed information. And so if we start with that as a starting point, then I think it'll help us define what we're doing with Appian and data fabric now. So data fabric is new. The old way of connecting all your information was probably a data lake. And collecting all that data is hard. It takes time. You've got to build pipelines. You have to spend months and oftentimes 18 months to assemble all the different data you want, structured and unstructured data, documents, all of it. But even when you're done, people have discovered, and the reason why data fabrics have come about is you haven't built the relationships between the data in a data lake. You have lots of information in there swimming around, but it's not talking to each other. It's just there. And with a data fabric, we're saying, wait a minute, why don't we create one data model, even though the data doesn't have to live together, and we can build those relationships in real time. And if you could do that, it would not only save a lot of time, it would make things a lot easier. It would actually allow us to do new powerful things with that information. So here is, in 22.4, a new visualization in the product of a data fabric. And in this case, we're taking advantage of Appian's codeless integrations to Salesforce, to Microsoft, to Oracle Financials, as well as the Appian database, of course. And we're creating a single view of a modernized grants management system. And the value here, of course, is you don't need to rip out all of those legacy systems. You can work with them if you want and access their information natively. Now, that in and of itself isn't terribly new, but if you look closely, you see we're not just integrating these systems. There's little relationship diagrams there. We see the one-to-many, many-to-many, one-to-one relationships are discovered by Appian. And in this way, we're starting to show you how you can trace the relationships and begin making important decisions about how you're going to bring this data together to show a new grantee what their requirements are and how you're going to vet that grant application and who's going to make that decision about how much of a grant they get and who's going to obligate the funds from the financial system. So to bring that all together, we've got a lot of new technology. And when other vendors talk about data fabric in our market, they tend to be talking about rebranding that no-code, low-code integration module. And that's it. But the heart of Appian's data fabric is an entirely new data service, the Appian data service, that unifies all that data, maps the relationships, gives you a single virtual data model, and most importantly, abstracts away the underlying data sources. So you read and write directly from the core data service, not from the underlying systems. And then you can enrich that data. You can do powerful new things. So at best, I would say most of our competition has 1/5 of the story. And what they don't have is a way to actually work directly with the data fabric and not have to know all about the API documentation and the underlying structure of those other systems. It's the Appian data service that allows us to all work and perform beautifully. So integration, yes, you need to integrate. But then second, what you want to do is add in new knowledge about this data. If I have an insurance company and I want to know which of my products are profitable and which ones are not, which ones expose us to too many claims and potentially too many false claims, for example, then I need to be able to join data from my billing system with my policy system. And those can very well likely be two different systems, two different databases, many different APIs. Data fabric allows us to define new custom fields like profitability by product, by customer, and risk scores, and do that without having to do database coding, database views, stored procedures, any of that. We can do it all directly in the data fabric with low code or no code, and get our answer that much faster. And then here's where the magic happens. Because you're building your process automation, your apps in Appian, we know exactly how we're going to have to optimize the storage in the data fabric. We're automatically able to anticipate your queries because you've defined them for us, and we use that metadata to automatically repartition and re-index the storage. And therefore, your performance is always outstanding. And then here's the most beautiful part about the Appian Data Fabric. It's not a new product. It doesn't have a price tag. It doesn't have a new training manual. It doesn't have a whole new thing for you to learn. And it's part of Appian. The records technology you know and love just got a lot better. And for customers who've been working with us on this for the last few months, it's been very easy for them to adopt it. And here it is, nearly half of Appian's customer base is already taking advantage of Appian Data Fabric in production. It's remarkable. It's incredible. And for those who are left, it'll be an easy transition to refactor your apps. S&P Global is a public company out of New York who's already using the Data Fabric. 7,000 employees, 1,000 Appian processes, hundreds of systems integrated with the Appian Data Fabric, updated tens of thousands of times a day. The Appian Data Fabric keeps all of your data in sync. You never have stale data. It's absolutely revolutionary for what S&P Global's been able to do. It's a transformative story, and they're going to tell you about it, and they're going to tell it on stage. I can't wait to hear their presentation. Jaguar Land Rover, also here at the show. They'll be talking tomorrow. It's a perfect example of how every industry faces the kind of complex processes and regulatory challenges that Appian is ideally suited to solve for banking and insurance and government agencies. Increasingly, manufacturers and healthcare firms are encountering the same types of regulatory challenges and turning to Appian to solve them. Jaguar Land Rover is no different. Thanks to Brexit, just moving parts from the continent to the UK to a manufacturing plant has become very complicated. And they used Appian to address that problem. And what they saved is so unbelievable, I'm not even going to tell you. You just wouldn't believe me. You wouldn't. You would just say, no, he just made that up. And so I'm going to let them tell you all about it tomorrow. And seek them out. Find them individually. Make those connections we talked about, connected possibilities. You'll be amazed. So turning to industry focus. Appian is looking at the low-code market generally through the lens of process automation for financial services, insurance, and the government agencies that regulate them. And we're running an ad campaign in the tube you may have seen on the way here. This is it. This is the advertisement. And it speaks to the reality. Appian is process automation for financial services and insurance. And it's not just 5 of the 6 top UK banks. It's 6 of the top 10 global banks. And it's not just the top banks. It's the top insurance companies like Aon. Fantastic Appian customers, CNA Insurance. And it's usually the case that the typical Appian customer uses us to automate case management, customer lifecycle management, and of course, compliance reporting. We've been working with financial services customers so long that we have an entire family of solutions built entirely on our low-code process automation that showcase the incredible user experience you can build in Appian, that showcase the process automation features of our RPA and intelligent document processing. And they cover the onboarding experience, the servicing experience, and of course the compliance requirements. And we call these our connected solutions. Connected solution, connected onboarding, connected servicing, connected KYC, connected possibilities. You see, we're making a connection here? Maybe, okay. All right. We also have a number of out-of-the-box integrations to the financial systems you need to talk to accelerate your adoption even further. And I'm excited to announce a new partnership collaboration with FeedZai. This is a fintech company that focuses on fraud detection and detecting suspicious behavior with artificial intelligence. And tying this directly into our solutions is what we're working on with FeedZai. I think it's a very exciting capability, and it goes to the value of the Appian Data Fabric and how easy it is to compose new solutions that take advantage of whatever cutting-edge fintech you need to bring in to meet today's challenges, as we expect there to be an uptick in these types of false claims in the coming years. And I wanted to point out as well that our solutions are not just accelerators. They're not just a template. These are fully baked solutions that are recognized by analysts in the market as being among the best, and compared to vertical solutions for core, client lifecycle management and financial services by Chartis here. Appian also makes solutions for insurance, another great customer of ours, customer base. And Appian's connected underwriting solution is something new, and we're excited to show it off because of how well it showcases Appian's cloud-native microservices architecture. Building new branded customer portals so prospects can shop for insurance is now simple. And with Appian 22.4, the DevOps for deploying those microservices is fully integrated into our low-code packaging. It's really terrific. And for developers, it's a fantastic experience. And for users, we also offer progressive web apps so that you can download that web experience without having to have a native mobile app anymore. You can have the native mobile app if you want, but the progressive web app now makes it much easier for people to have the whole Appian dynamic experience on the go. And our solutions are really all the more valuable when they're able to work with the systems you already have. And a few weeks ago, this picture was taken at the Guidewire conference. Guidewire is the largest property and casualty specialist provider, and their core insurance system for property and casualty insurers is used by over 400 of the biggest insurance companies in the world, and many of them are Appian customers. And Mike Rosenbaum, the CEO, at his conference in Las Vegas was showcasing this new relationship with Appian. And to me, this is the payoff. As CTO, this is what I get excited about. When we create a data fabric that is allowing you to build solutions that use the systems you have and not have to rip and replace them, that's validated by the partnerships we're able to build. The trust Guidewire is able to place in us because we're not trying to replace a core insurance system or a core ERP. What we're trying to do is give you an answer to how to create new digital experiences, unified workflows, process automations to meet this moment of challenge and do it as fast as possible. And so this is a true strategic relationship. I'm proud to have Guidewire people here in the audience and working with our engineers on their 300 endpoints and their APIs to make sure that we can confidently deliver outstanding results for you. And this is what I want to close with, is if you take nothing else away from this keynote and this conference, it's this. Appian is the definitive choice for process automation in financial services and insurance. And our new data fabric is making it possible for you to get better results faster with the outstanding technology partners you have beyond Appian. The answer is not just Appian. The answer is using Appian to take advantage of the technology investments you already have. And with Appian's data fabric, we're confident you'll be able to do that. So thank you. Have a great conference. Have a great time.